Alright, Mr. A is back here. Today's lesson is going to be on like denominators, adding and subtracting fractions with like denominators. As you can see by the board here, like denominators simply means the same denominator. In this example here, we have 1/3 plus 2/3, and notice that we've pointed out that the 3 is the same in the denominator spot, and so it makes them like denominators. We will then be able to just add them straight across. Now on the opposite side, it is 1/3 plus 3/4, and we notice that it is not the same denominator there. So let's erase the board here, and we'll do a couple example problems. Okay, let's try 1/3 plus 2/3. Now, because we have the same like denominator, we can just add straight across. First things first, since I know 3 is going to be the denominator I use, we'll just put the 3 there, and then we have a 1 plus a 2, and that equals 3. So 3/3, but this is not reduced all the way because, as we know, anything that is in the numerator that is the same in the denominator, the value is actually equal to 1, which would be the same as 100 over 100 is equal to 1. So again, there is 1/3 plus 2/3 is equal to 3/3, which is equal to 1. They are like denominators, so we're just adding straight across. Let's do another example. Let's try 3/4 plus 2/4. Now here we have the same denominator, which is a 4, and so we'll just move it across. But here we go, we have 3 plus 2 equals 5. So that gives us an improper fraction. This is an improper fraction. 5/4. Now this answer could stand alone, but really what 5/4 is we have 4/4 plus 1/4 equals 5/4. So notice this and this are the same. We've just broken it down here so we can see what's actually going on, and as you can see here, 4/4, that equals 1. Drop that plus sign, and then we still have 1/4. So now we know we have 1 plus 1/4, and really what that means is we can just drop the plus sign, and when we make an equal fraction, it is a mixed number, it is 1 and 1/4. So to recap, 5/4 is equal to 1 and 1/4, and that is in the lowest possible terms. So again, just to recap, we have 3/4 plus 2/4 is equal to 5/4, which is equal to 1 and 1/4. Now, since I said the video would be about adding and subtracting, let's do a couple subtraction problems before we post some problems for you to do on your own. So let's try 5/6 minus 3/6. Now notice again we have the same denominator. That means we can just go ahead and subtract straight across the top. And so first things first, we're going to put that like denominator so we don't forget it. Becomes a 6. And then 5 minus 3, and that is easy peasy lemon squeezy. That's right. So we get 2/6. Now 2/6 is not reduced all of the way. I can tell this because I have even numbers here. So what I can do is I can extend this line, this fancy little line, and I can divide each by 2. And let's see what we get. 2 divided by 2 is 1, and 6 divided by 2 is 3. So now let me rewrite this. We have 5/6 minus 3/6 is equal to 2/6, which is equal to 1/3. And that is in its lowest terms. Let's do one more subtraction problem, and then we'll make some problems for you to practice on your own. First things first, full-grown Edgar. Alright, let's try 3/4 minus 2/4 equals. Now notice again, the denominators are the same. So that means we can just subtract after we put the 4 there, so we don't forget what our denominator is. We can subtract straight across the top. 3 minus 2 equals 1. And that's it. Let's subtract that. Let's erase that, rather. Now, another way to look at fractions is by using fraction bars. So let's go back to the addition before we make some problems. That way you can represent it in multiple ways. We have, let's see, we'll go 1/4 plus, how about 2/4? No. 1/4 plus 2/4 equals. Now we could do the numbers, and based on what we did before, we saw that the like denominators, here we have 4 is the same. We could just solve it like this. 1 plus 2 equals 3. We could solve it like this, but let's say you're not 100% familiar. Let's say you don't have this quite down yet to be able to recognize that you have similar denominators and you can just add straight across the top. Or maybe you just choose to represent it in multiple ways. So here is a fraction bar. Now I have my fraction bar there, and I'm going to split it into 4 pieces. Now this first one here, let's use a different color here. This is 1/4. So if you recall, the 4, the denominator, represents how many pieces I have of a whole. So we have 1/4 right there. Now there's 2 ways to do this. We can do this and mark that fraction bar as 1/4, and then we can create another fraction bar and we'll mark this fraction bar 2/4. Try to make it the same size, and let's use green here. So we're going to shade in 1 and we're going to shade in 2, because remember, the denominator tells us how many parts. 4. 1, 2, 3, 4 total parts. Now the numerator, the top number, the 1 here and the 2 here, tells us how many parts we have. So we currently have, in this fraction, in this whole, this part of a whole, we have 2 parts of 4. And in this one we have 1 part of 4. So we have 1/4. And likewise down here we have 2/4. Now what we could do is, since they're the same denominator, the same number of parts, we can simply add how many parts we have in total. And as you can see here, we have 1 part, 2 parts, 3 parts. So our answer could be 3/4, which if you look up at the top, it matches. It's 3/4. Now another way to do this is, we can see here we have 1/4, which is this 1/4. And so we have 1 part. That's the 1 part. 4 parts total. We have 1 of 4 parts. Now I've shaded that in orange, and now I'm going to take my blue and we're going to count this one as 2/4. There's 1 more 4th, and there's 2 more 4ths. And so now, as you can see, I have a total of 1, 2, 3 4ths. Now that's another way that you could do it. You could also let's see, we'll go with the orange. Who likes pizza? Alright, let's see here. So we'll call this guy here 1/4. And we'll shade in this pizza here with 1. That represents 1/4. Now, let's use, red would be not contrast enough. Okay, so now we still have this 2/4 up here. So we have 1/4. And let's just go ahead and shade in. Well, before we do that, let's back up a step here. Before we get to that, let's make a new one here. And we'll represent it as 2/4, the plus sign. 1/4, 2/4. Now, as you can see, we could add. We have 1/4, 2/4, 3/4. But just like before, what we could do is we could keep it all in the same one. And we could say 2/4. Because we have 1/4, and now we have to add 2 more fourths. So here's 1 more fourth, and here's 2 more fourths, for a total of 1, 2, 3 fourths. So those are ways that you can represent it using either that nice pizza that I drew. You could use the regular raw numbers here. You could do the fraction bars. Another way is if we have a $1 bill. Let's put a $1 bill here. Let's see how well I can do this. We have a $1 bill. That's 1 whole. Now, let's say we have 4 quarters. We'll make our quarters orange. And I'll make sure to... You'll have to forgive the camera work. I do not have Justin here, so I'm holding it with one hand while working with the other. Teacher struggle is real. Alright, so as you can see here, we now have 1 quarter plus 2 quarters plus 3 quarters plus 4 quarters. Well, not really plus 4 quarters, but 4 quarters in total, and that's going to give us $1. So we'll go ahead and write 4 quarters right there. Now, we could continue to do that. We could do that with nickels and make 20 nickels. We could do that with dimes and make 10 dimes. This is just simply to show you another way that we can represent this problem. So with this in mind here, let's go back to this 1 quarter. And we can call this a quarter because there's 4. Okay, so let's go back. So this 1 quarter could be represented by that. Now we're going to add 2 more. 1 and 2 more quarters. Now if we were to take all these and add them together, we're going to get 3 quarters. Because this happy guy right here is equal to 1 quarter. And it's equal to 1 quarter because if we were to add this, would be 1 quarter. And this, forget my arrow, is 1 quarter. And this is 1 quarter. So if we were to add those together, this is 1/4, 2/4, 3/4, 4/4, which is equal to 1, right? 4/4 equals 1. So that's another way to represent this problem. And we could do it even more. We could write word problems as well. Oh, I totally erased Edgar. Alright. Look at my one-handed erasing skills. So the original problem was 1/4 plus 2/4 equals 3/4. That was our original problem. Now let's write a word problem for this. How could we represent 1/4 plus 2/4 equals 3/4? How about this? We'll start this. We'll go Kenny spent 1/4 of an hour playing Fortnite and new girl cheated. She spent 2/4 of an hour. You're never going to believe where she was. She was on TikTok. I don't know. Is that how you spell TikTok? I'm not sure. The kids these days. So, how much time did they spend all together? On Fortnite and TikTok. So here we go. We got Kenny spent 1/4 of an hour playing you guys can read this. Okay, so there you have it. There is a quick math lesson done on adding and subtracting like denominators, fractions with like denominators. And so now I'm going to put some problems for you to do. And so how we're going to do this is we're going to put the problems up here, and then you're going to pause the video, and then you're going to solve the problems, and then you're going to unpause the video to see the answer. Okay, pause the video now. Okay, good, welcome back. As you can see, we'll have the 6 there, and we'll have a 1 plus the 3 is equal to 4/6. Now we can reduce this even further by extending this line, and I know that because, again, I have 2 even numbers. Now what goes into both? What factors do we have that go into both 4 and 6? Well, I know 2, so let's divide each by 2. So that will give us 4 divided by 2 is equal to 2, and 6 divided by 2 is equal to 3. So your answer is 2/3. Next problem. Okay, go ahead and pause the video now. And welcome back. And as we can see, 5/7 minus 2/7 is going to give us an answer in the sevenths. And then we just subtract across the top. 5 minus 2 is 3. So your answer is 3/7. Okay, this time I'm going to put some on the board. And then you'll do them, you'll complete them, and on the next video I will post the answers to these. So make sure that you hold on to the paper that you're writing your answers to these questions. And this is going to be lesson 1. And when you get back to school, if you are able to turn in your lessons, you will either get a snack or you will get a free spin of the wheel for each completed lesson set of problems that you have done. So let's go here. I can't quite see that this is an 8. Thank you for being patient. Okay, there we go. So lesson 1 problems. So go ahead and pause the video and copy those down. And we'll see you for lesson 2. Mr. A signing off.